I want to begin this lesson by giving all praise, glory, and honor to Yahweh Hashem, Yahweh Shah, Hashem Kakodash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of GMS. Peace, mercy, and grace to the household of faith, the elect. Shalom. And this is going to be a quick video, pretty much echoing a point that I was making in my previous video concerning the Roman Empire. You had the 8 reasons why Rome fell. And the United States, which is, fashioned after the ancient Roman Empire, it is falling in a similar like manner. And one of the reasons Rome fell is because of its legions were getting weak. All right. And we see the same thing happening today with the United States.
Military is struggling to recruit the nation's next generation of service members, those from Gen Z. The Army is expected to be about 15,000 recruits short of its 2023 goal. The Navy projects it will fall 10,000 short, and the Air Force 3,000 recruits below its goal. Our next guest wrote a book.
Okay, so going back to history.com, number 8, the weakening of the Roman legions. It says for most of its history, Rome's military was the envy of the ancient world. But during the decline, the makeup of the once mighty legions began to change. Unable to recruit enough soldiers from the Roman citizenry, emperors like Diocletian and Constantine began hiring foreign mercenaries to prop up their armies. So a lack of recruitment was an issue for the Roman Empire prior to its fall, which is what we're seeing right now. And if you continue reading, it tell you the people that they ended up letting into the army were people that ended up pretty much partaking in the destruction of the Roman Empire in its fall. So, I'm gonna go back to this video and play a little bit more. And you're gonna have this guy speak who's like Gen Z, and he's giving his opinion and beliefs on what's going on with why it's so hard to get Gen Z into the army. But it's really just the Lord making it, showing that this place is at its end. Let's get Daniel the 5th chapter real quick. We talk about Babylon the Great, and then you had the Neo-Babylonian Empire under, what's his name, Nebuchadnezzar. They was out there eating their spoils, like the scripture say in Job, filling their belly, and then the Lord just suddenly took them down. This is Daniel 5. All right, Daniel 5 and 25, because there was a writing on the wall. Because when you look at what was happening here, there was a big feast. All right, Daniel 5 and 1, Belshazzar the king made a great feast to 1,000 of his lords and drank wine before his 1,000. Belshazzar, while he tasted the wine, commanded to bring the golden and silver vessels which his father Nebuchadnezzar had taken out of the temple which was in Jerusalem, that the king and his princes and his wives and his concubines might drink therein. He jumped down to verse 5. In that same hour came forth fingers of a man's hand and wrote over the candlestick upon the plaster of the wall of the king's palace, and the king saw the part of the hand that wrote. All right, then the king's countenance was changed, and his thoughts troubled him, so that the joints of his loins were loosed, and his knees smote one against another. All right, and he, long story short, he didn't know what it meant, and so they summoned for Daniel, who was like a Joseph. He was able to interpret things. So you jump down to his interpretation. Verse 25, it says, and this is the writing that was written. Mene, mene, tekel, parsin. And this is the interpretation of the thing. Mene, God have numbered thy kingdom and finished it. Tekel, thou art weighed in the balances and are found wanting. Paris, thy kingdom is divided and given to the Medes and the Persians. Same thing happening right now. All right, the Lord has numbered the kingdom of Babylon. He's weighed it. All right, pretty much he's used the 2 witnesses to testify against it. All right, and the kingdom is divided. And a divided kingdom can't stand. This place is about to get ready to go. And this is where you get that saying, the writing on the wall. All right, when you hear people say, well, it's the writing in the wall. The writing on the wall. The writing on the wall was symbolic of the end of an empire. Okay, so I'm going to add one more that I'm going to put in Q. Jeremiah 51 and verse 30. We're going to play a little of this clip.
On why a career in the military is not appealing to younger Americans. It's entitled, We Don't Want You, Uncle Sam, examining the Military Recruiting Crisis with Generation Z. Joining us now is the book's author, Matthew Weiss. He's an officer in the U.S. Marine Corps. And Joe has the first question for you, Matthew.
Matthew, thank you so much for your service. God bless you. And we really appreciate it. And I appreciate you writing this book, too, because, you know, I will talk about how I don't like people in politics tearing down our military for political purposes. Other people say it's too woke, it's too this, it's too that. But you look at your book, and it's really complicated, and a lot of the challenges start with a generation. Let me just read really quickly what you said. Gen Z is the most anxious and depressed American generation as a constant influx of digital life takes its toll. Compared to boomers, Gen Z had 19% more reported loneliness. Suicide is the second highest cause of death for Gen Z. So a lot of it has to do with mental health challenges?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. And when I looked at my generation and my impetus for writing the book, I basically thought, I am Gen Z. I have to speak for my generation. We get a lot of flack from both sides of the political aisle. We get a lot of flack from our elders. Who are we is basically what I tried to sit down and initially write. And then why is Gen Z not joining? You point out mental health. That is a huge reason. We are struggling. We are the first generation that came into elementary school with social media, with iPhones. The constant pinging of likes, the social feedback of comments on Instagram, on Facebook, that causes a big mental health gap. And so as a generation, we're struggling to sort of find our identity. And to ask our generation to serve is becoming a bigger and bigger challenge. So I wrote the book, hopefully, to shed light on this.
One of the biggest struggles of their identity is gender. Let's look at, I got this in queue, a little news here, and this is recent news. It says a female military recruit distressing experience. She was forced to shower with transgender soldiers who still possess male genitalia. And I think she was like 18. So yeah, 18-year-old military recruit. So this is Gen Z. This is what they have to deal with. Gen Z, they have to deal with this. All right, a big identity crisis. The mighty men are forborn to fight. They have become like women. Jeremiah 51:30, the mighty men of Babylon have forborn to fight. They have remained in their holds that might have failed. They became as women. They have burnt her dwelling places. Her bars are broken. All right, America is broken. All right, your bar. All right, that's like your defense. Let's look up that bar. Let's see what it say. Her bars, which is Bariah, bar of wood, city gates, fortress of the earth. So defenses. So the defenses of Babylon are broken. Your men of war are saying, I'm not interested. All right, because they're seeing that the men of war before them are subject to poverty, being shitted on, being forgotten, not being, honored. All right. When you go here to Sirach 26:8, it says, there be two things that grieve my heart, and the third maketh me angry. A man of war that suffereth poverty. All right. A man of war suffering poverty. These men have fought in this country and put their lives on the line, come back, all kind of PTSD, goddamn amputated limbs, scars, bullet wounds, explosion wounds. All right. And they end up suffering poverty. It says, and men of understanding that are not set by, and one that returneth from righteousness to sin, the Lord prepareth such as one for the sword. Now, go into these comments, because I'm sure they're going to talk about people, you know what I'm saying? Bam, right here. Who can blame them? How many veterans have been ignored by their government after serving? It's shameful. You see, this is an unrighteous society. This is an unrighteous country, unrighteous nation. And people now have references to say, you know what? I'm not going to the military. I ain't doing it. I ain't signing up. I ain't doing it. And then not to mention, you got, which goes back to the that list. You got reason number 7, the Christianity and the loss of traditional values, which today that would be the rise of the truth, all right, concerning the Hebrew Israelites in the Bible, and then the loss of traditional values also. That's what's happening right now. So like a traditional value, coming up was serving your country. You know what I'm saying? If you're a fighting age, signing up for the military, putting your life on the line so that, your fellow nation and country can continue to enjoy its freedoms, right? But people don't have those traditional values anymore. They don't even come from traditional households. But look at these comments. It says, it doesn't take a rocket scientist why recruiting is an issue. Look at how they treat veterans after service. You see? Look at the just mentioned it. Look at the PTSD after serving and the lack of affordable health care and unaffordable housing. You see that? Using social media is just a cop-out on the real issues. No one wants to die for being mistreated by the same country while the rich get rich and don't pay their fair share in the country. See, the scripture says that the wicked will be revealed. And even though people can't quite put their finger on who this is and why this is happening. They know that there's something unrighteous about this. All right, they know that something ain't right about all of this. Going back to Proverbs the 29th chapter and 2, when the righteous are in authority, the people rejoice, but when the wicked beareth rule, the people mourn. So people are in the state of mourn, which was going to that, which is Aina, which is sigh, or Ana, sigh, groan. All right, people are sighing and crying, moaning, groaning, hurt. And they're voicing it on these comment boards. As a former infantryman in the U.S. Army, I can understand the reasons for this generation to not enlist in the military. This generation witnessed with their own eyes the horrors of war on military services members and the consequences inflicted on servicemen and servicewomen. And it ain't like these people was going into these other nations to fight actual general wars, you know, for real reasons, for real, like real people that were really threats to the safety of people here. They was out here going out here on some old pseudo bullshit. You know what I'm saying? Really, it was just people in the Middle East protecting they family. Didn't want the United States and their goddamn philosophy and democracy over there, polluting their nation, polluting their people, you know, taking their resources. And they was defending their own places and their families and their resources and wanting the U.S. out. The U.S. got their paint the propaganda. Oh, they terrorists. They got weapons of mass destruction. You know, they planning this. They planned this attack. They did this and they did that. You see, and people see this, man. Because the truth that had been so long without fruit is being declared and things are coming out. Nothing is here that shall not be revealed. You see, so these are all signs that we're at the end in the fall of this modern day Rome, which is Babylon the Great, the USA. So I'm going to close that through a spirit. I pray it was edifying. On to the next.